My father told me a story once of how he got his first ever visa to come to the UK. So we were all born in Pakistan, and he wanted to come to the UK to try and see if this would be a good place to raise his children. But my dad applies for a visa to come to the UK. He travels all the way to the British embassy, or the immigration office, or whatever it is, like some kind of, government place he's got to go to, and he's traveled hours to get there. And he told me the story that it would open up at 7 a.m. and it was like in the mountains. And so you would have to get there literally hours earlier and line up in this huge line outside of it at like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. waiting in the cold. And you'd slowly wait and see that, the employees were coming in at their 7 a.m. shift, and they slowly get ready to open and let people come in. Imagine like this government kind of place, which is just soulless. And they're just following like systems and procedures, especially this is literally like 25 years ago in Pakistan. So things aren't like so great there. And my dad's waiting in line for hours in the cold. And he told me that he would then see the people who had been waiting in line in front of them. They would actually get out and be replaced by their bosses, who would come up in nice cars. So essentially what happened was rich guys, like guys who were quite wealthy, were able to outsource their place in the line to their cooks, their maids, whatever, their servants. And that's just something that always stuck with me, knowing that my dad experienced that, and that there was such a divide of wealth that someone, some rich guy was able to outsource. And it makes me feel very happy that I've become that kind of man who can outsource tasks that I don't want to do to employees. And yeah, he got the UK visa. He actually had, he told me, he had an argument with the person in there. I'm not like this at all, or I'm trying to be more, but he's a very assertive man. So he told me another story of this. At the same time, he goes in and he applied for a 3-year visa, something like that, so he could come to the UK, and they literally stamped him and just gave his passport back. He had a look at it, and it said 6-month visa. And really imagine this scenario: you're in some government building, you've just stood up, you've got your passport stamped, someone else has just sat down on the same seat, some other guy waiting for his visa, he's just sat down on your seat, you've started to walk away. I think most people, especially my generation, we would have just saw the 6-month visa and just be like, oh yeah, I guess that's what I've got now. And so my dad told me no, he literally he went back, told him whatever, apologized to the guy who just sat down and said, no, I asked for a 3-year visa, that's the form I gave you, it was for 3 years. The guy behind the desk is no, it doesn't matter, whatever. And usually you'd kind of give, you'd give way to someone who's in that authority figure. But my dad challenged it, ended up getting loud, ended up saying he wants to speak to the manager and stuff. And eventually other people coming in, my dad's no, pushing his point, no, it needs to be 3 years because it's for business, it's for this, it's for this. No, I came for 3 years, I filled out the 3-year form, so make it 3 years. And just something hearing this story of him telling me that just impressed me, because I think young men of my generation, it's we don't really have that level of assertiveness. We would have just walked, or at least I would have just walked with our tail between our legs of just, I guess it's a 6-month visa, then it's not exactly what I wanted. But a lot of the times we don't even feel like we have the confidence to bring up something like that. Eventually, with enough chaos there, it's they stamped a new one, okay, 3 years. And he was then able to travel around the UK, see where some factories were. So he was working in a paper mill and a power plant kind of place as an engineer. So he was traveling around a little bit. And actually, when I was in Dubai just a few months ago, I'm there walking around successful YouTuber. I have a $10,000 watch on my wrist. I'm wearing a $500 shirt. And I don't know if you've ever been to Dubai, but there's a very clear class of people there. And the Indians and the Pakistanis, they're the full-on workers, almost essentially slaves. You'll see them come in on their buses. They're getting paid pretty much nothing. They come in on particular buses, and then they're just working in the construction sites. They're building all of the beautiful towers and buildings there. And it's this well-known thing. Okay, they don't really get treated well. They don't get paid well. There's a lot of horrible abuse that goes on to these workers that come from Pakistan and India, right? And every single day with me and my friend Sam, we'd walk past like, you know, construction sites where there was a lot like of these workers who was just like stood outside, and oftentimes like I felt somewhat uncomfortable. And I couldn't place like my thought on it just yet. Up until just one more time, me and my friend walked past like a bus of these guys, like they're finishing the day of work at like 7 p.m. They were there like literally before I woke up, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. and then just now finishing at 7. And I'm just kind of noticing that they're all kind of like looking at me whilst they're in the bus. And I'm thinking of how interesting it is that I'm on this pavement here, like going shopping or whatever like bullshit I was doing with this fancy watch and stuff, and they're in there. And I started to really think to myself, okay, like why am I here? Why are they in there? And I realized two things, two variables. I could have been in that bus. If we stayed in Pakistan, and maybe if something happened to my dad, or even if it didn't, like, you know, if he passed away or something, even if he didn't, as a young man in Pakistan and in Dubai and you know, India or whatever, but for me, I would have been in Pakistan. Imagine if like I didn't do well in school there, which I probably wouldn't have. Imagine if I never got into entrepreneurship there, which I maybe wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have had like, you know, the reading, like as good English skills as growing up in UK. There's a chance that 22-year-old me, 23-year-old me would have heard of like a good work opportunity in Dubai and decided to go for it. Like, I don't think that's like incredibly far-fetched. There could have been a chance. And if not that, I would have grown up in Pakistan, which of course isn't like, you know, this is still like a beautiful place, but it doesn't have the life quality as like the UK. And the education that I've gotten here, even though like, you know, I wasn't ever a good student in school, it's still, I would probably say it's probably still higher than what I would have gotten in Pakistan, especially my English skill, which is literally like what makes this entire like business run.